How you doing? Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to KRSTV. This is your boy Kenny. Now remember, subscribe to my channel and click that bell so you can get notifications every time I drop a video. Also follow all the information I have in the description box as well as the comment section. Also like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. Now, before I get started with this review, let me send a special shout out to the GMHC crew, which is Gay Men's Health Collaborative. If you are in the DMV area and would like to get tested for HIV, reach out to us at the GMHC crew for a home testing kit. You can have the kit mailed to you, or you can call and make a same-day appointment and come to our location to pick one up. And if you're interested in getting set up for PrEP, which is HIV prevention, reach out to us at the GMHC crew for that as well. Also, if you're a fan of KRSTV and would like to become one of my Patreons, check out my Patreon today. Pretty much my Patreons are black diamonds, because black diamonds, even in darkness, will still shine. So for $5 a month, you'll get all my YouTube content as well as exclusive videos that will be for the black diamonds that will not appear on YouTube. So become a black diamond and check out my Patreon today. Also, check out my YouTube partner, BK WorldTube, which is the Black Netflix. You get shows like The Haves and the Have-Nots, and also shows like the Black Ink Crew. So after you watch this review, go into my description box or my comment section to get that link to check out BK WorldTube today. Now, this is my review of Wendy Williams, the movie. And I must say, I enjoyed it from beginning to end. It was well done. Shout out to Lifetime, because you know how Lifetime be fucking up some of these biopics, child. There's a history of them. But this one was done exceptionally well. And a special shout out to Sierra Payton. You did your thing in this movie, sweetheart. And I'm definitely a fan of Sierra Payton. Most of you know she plays the role of Lily on The Oval, which is returning on February 16th, and I'm so here for it. And for those of you who follow me, you know I've been reviewing the show, and I will be reviewing season 2, so I cannot wait. But Sierra Payton is a phenomenal talent, and she is so excellent in this role as Wendy Williams. And it was just... watching this movie made me even more of a Wendy Williams fan, because I've always liked Wendy. You know, even all of her crazy shenanigans, I love her for it because it's her. She's being her authentic self. And that's one thing that I've learned from Wendy, is to just be you and be revolutionary. Because I've had people who know me as a YouTuber told me that I need to be more like Wendy Williams. And I'm like, no, I don't need to be Wendy Williams. I need to be Kenneth Stallings of KRSTV. Because I believe in the philosophy of Bruce Lee, where he said that you have to be yourself. Don't try to find a successful personality and duplicate it. There are no duplications here. You have to find your own path and your own narrative. Just like Wendy Williams followed hers, I have to follow mine. And for that, I love Wendy, because Wendy followed her own path, and you saw that throughout the movie, how she really was a trendsetter, and how she literally followed her own path and her own narrative and looked to where she is today. I mean, even with all of her struggles and trials and tribulations, she's always had a grind and a hustle to her. So the movie opens up, you know, where she's about to go on the show. All of her whole life is literally playing back to her, and all of a sudden she turns to the camera and begins to tell her story. And it starts in 1975 in New Jersey. You know, she's a girl who's pretty much husky. You know, I wouldn't say she was fat, but she was big for her age, and she constantly felt the pressure from her family to lose weight. She goes to a birthday party to play musical chairs. She wins, and the birthday girl is mad because it's my birthday. She was supposed to let me win, being all crying and weak. And then all of a sudden, the chair broke, and while Wendy was sitting in it, and of course, everybody laughed at her, and her mother was embarrassed, and it began this traumatic thing that she wanted to lose weight by any means, and it definitely had an effect on her self-esteem, and she pretty much made a vow to herself that I'm going to be like the people that are in the tabloids, or the people that are famous. I'm going to be that, and I'm going to do all I can. I'm going to do everything I can to make it happen. So she ends up, going to college, and, pretty much makes her moves. And then they go to 1987. She is now a disc jockey at WOLL, which is a radio station in Washington, D.C., and she's interviewing this rising star named Ricky Tony. And she recently came out that this person, Ricky Tony, is actually the R&B singer Sherrick, who had a hit in 1987 with Just Call, and allegedly she was date raped by him. And we actually see how in the interview they're flirting with each other. He invites her to this album release party, but he says he needs to go to this hotel room and change. She goes with him. He's in the shower. She's pretty much on the bed, drinking, and it's just excited that, she's gonna go out on this date with this guy. And literally he comes in, with a towel wrapped around him. He takes the towel off, takes off her panties, and just throws himself onto her, and he rapes her right then and there. And then afterwards he's like, you can let yourself out. That was so traumatic, and you literally saw that she literally had to bury that and keep going, because the next day her boss was like, oh, I heard you went on a date with Ricky Tony. Wendy didn't even acknowledge it. She just literally put it in the back of her mind and said that no. She literally just let her know her stats. My views are growing. More people are tuning in the radio because of the work I'm doing, and I will continue to be a success, and I will continue to deliver results. And just bypassed her and kept it moving. And I'm like, that had to be extremely hard, because things like this happen to women, where women are raped and they have to bury it under the rug. I mean, there's a history of it, especially women in the industry. And this has become a norm in the industry, and this has to be eradicated, because too many women are being destroyed because of situations like this. And I'm glad that she's now, opening up and talking about it. But my message to Shedrick's wife: have several seats, sweetheart. I know that's your husband, and I know you vow to love, honor, and protect him, but you didn't know that man back in 87. And people, as human beings, we evolve. You know what I'm saying? So he may not have been that with you, but you can't speak on a situation that you weren't even involved in. And this whole thing about calling the police, not many rape victims do call the police. And based off of the reason why Wendy didn't, because it's on record that they were flirting with each other on the radio, so it would look like as if she wanted it. And then on top of it, he was in the industry. It would have killed her career before it even started. And that's the tragedy of why these things have to stop, where women, even men who are violated in this industry, have to bury that pain, and it just implodes over time, and it leads to them being self-destructive in many ways. So then she finally reached her goal. Her goal was to become a radio personality in New York City. She finally gets her chance, and she gets an opportunity, in 1988, a year later, but it's a part-time gig at 103.5. And it was a hustle, because she was going back and forth between DC, where she had a full-time gig, and then she was doing New York on the weekends. And since she wasn't under a contract in New York. She could go back and forth, but then her cocaine use increased, especially, she started to freebase cocaine. And then we also saw a scene when she was talking to her dad, and she was so emotional because she was suffering in silence. She never even told her parents the fact that she was date raped. That was just something that she just kept inside, and I think over time it continued to eat away at her. But then, she strikes gold. 103.5 offers her a full-time position. She goes to tell her bosses at the DC station, and they were just nasty as fuck to her and told her, get out of my office. But success was the best revenge, because she went from making $9,000 working on the DC station to making $60,000 in New York. How you doing? So I cheered for that. So then after 2 years of working in New York, for 103.5, it changes over to, I think, 93.7. But then after that, she ends up getting fired, and her boss literally told her, go get married and have babies. That disgusted the fuck out of her, and rightfully so, because that was just, just straight, what's the word I'm looking for? It'll come to me. But it was just, just downright disrespectful to her as a woman. I mean, you're gonna tell her to get married and have babies. What if she doesn't want to do that? And she just made it more determined that I'm gonna move forward, and I'm gonna find my way, and I'm not gonna let anybody tell me to shush or tell me what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna decide I'm gonna decide my own fate, and I'm gonna move forward. Chauvinism, that's the word I was looking for. There we go. Just pure chauvinism. That all women can do is just make babies and raise families. Women can do everything. I was raised by my mother and my grandmother, so I see firsthand how powerful women are. And she ends up what she ends up doing is that she pretty much goes to this radio station, and Tony Gray is the head, and one of her idols, Carol Ford, who's a radio personality, she's there. She literally sat there every day for 2 weeks hoping to get a meeting with Tony Gray. And I think eventually, Tony probably noticed that she was there, but she never ran into him in that time. But it got word to him that this woman has been sitting there for 2 weeks looking for a meeting with him. So finally he comes out and says that he needs her to fill in for Carol Ford because she couldn't make, a radio session. She gets in there and starts dishing about Milli Vanilli and the whole lip sync scandal, which was probably one of the biggest scandals in music history. And then I said right there, when I saw that scene, I was like, it's time for Hot Topics, because that was a Hot Topics moment. Like, that was the birth of Hot Topics, because immediately Tony Gray was like, you can't talk about that on the radio. And she was like, look, the listeners want to hear this stuff. They love the dish, they love the tea, and he said that this is revolutionary. And then he says, I'm gonna get you a permanent position, here at this station. And we see that she becomes a part of this morning show crew, where her part of the segment is to dish and spill the tea. And then we see that Carol Ford is even looking in, along with Vinny, who replaced Tony as the head of the station. And they just admire Wendy's charisma, her energy, and the fact that, she's getting a lot of fans. She's growing. And then we see that she goes to the bathroom. She's at this, I think, like a club or something. She goes to the bathroom to do her regimen of coke. And then because she's now a big radio personality, people now recognize her. And there were two girls in the bathroom. It's like, hey, aren't you Wendy Williams from the radio show? Girl, I got some tea for you. Yeah, y'all know that group Total? Shoot, they up there working with Puffy, and Puffy ain't paying them shit. They broke. And also she comes out the bathroom, like, she comes out of the bathroom stall, like, Tell me everything. I cracked up at that. I was like, ha! Yes, Wendy's all about getting the dirt and the tea. But then she says that because of who she was, of course, she needed protection because you telling people's business, sometimes people ain't gonna take that very well, and they're gonna want to come for you, in some cases, in a physical manner. So she hires Corey, who's like her muscle. He also helps her to get her, booger sugar, cocaine. Shout out to Uptown Nate Rob. I love it when she says that. She's a great YouTuber. You should definitely check out her channel. And then also this guy named Skeletor, who's like her assistant. And then we see that, she starts a relationship with Eric B. And that situation was interesting because Eric B, from what she presented, was a whole nigga. Now, don't take when I say the word nigga in a negative way, because anybody of any race can be a nigga. A nigga is a state of mind, and literally what he did was that he threw down the vitamin D, but then he began to be a stress because he ruined her credit, because there was a scene where he wanted to borrow her car, and she was like, yeah, but you need to be back, because she takes pride in never being late for work. I, for one, share that with Wendy Williams. I am a stickler for being on time at work. And there were times where I will arrive to work sometimes an hour or 30 minutes early, so no one will ever say I was late. I take pride in that as well. So that I can relate with Wendy Williams. I do not like being late at all. And dude literally did not come back in time for her to get to work. And then she's decided, okay, well, he ain't borrowing my car no more. I'm going to rent him one. Did you know this fool did not return the car and kept the car for 2 weeks, meaning that the car was due back 2 weeks prior, and they sent out an ABB on her? So eventually she called him up and let his ass have it. He comes back and just throws the keys at her and walks away, and she went out and was like, "You're welcome, bitch." And that was the end of that. She says that the relationship was over and it wasn't even a full year, and she ended up getting pregnant with Eric B's baby, and she got an abortion. And then in 1994 is when she meets Kevin Hunter for the first time. And for those of you who don't know, Kevin Hunter was actually her second husband. She married a guy after her relationship with Eric B fell apart. So pretty much it was like a rebound relationship. She got married, but it only lasted 5 months. And recently, I think he came out and talked about how crazy their relationship was within that 5-month period. But then again, it's like understandable. I mean, she literally just got out of a really bad relationship, and she never really gotten over that before she got married. So that marriage didn't last, and she doesn't really talk about it, because she considers it like a very dark period in her life. And it was very short. But we see that her and Kevin, become an item, and you can really see their chemistry as to why they lasted as long as they did. One, they both were hustlers. They both had that grind mentality. So he wasn't an Eric B that would screw you and ruin your credit. He was a guy that was a go-getter just like her, and she admired that about him. And she called him a thug with a heart of gold, and they grew closer. And then she, in time, begins to share some of her childhood trauma about her weight issues, and that she had bulimia, as a kid, that she had tried bulimia, but then she hated throwing up, so she didn't want to do that anymore. But she just pretty much said that I'm going to be who I want to be, and no one's going to get in my way. And she says that I'm going to have liposuction, and I'm going to get breast implants. I want people to see me on the outside of who I am on the inside. And the thing about Kevin is that the scene where after she tells him all this, he says, "No matter what, I will always support you." And we know that to be true because recently her mother passed. Kevin was there by her side supporting her and their son, Kevin Jr. So even as of now, they still have this close rapport with each other, even though they're divorced. So we see that, Kevin Kevin definitely has that connection with her. And we saw that throughout the movie, even though Kevin started to become really reckless as hell. And then after a while, he wasn't even hiding his bullshit. So then she gets the surgery and everything. He stands by her side. When she walked up in there with the girl sitting and she was strutting, heads were rolling, honey. And I was like, yes, Wendy had her moment. And then while she's at work, the head of the radio pretty much suspended her because she was talking about her plastic surgery on the air. And I'm like, oh my God, like, it just shows how groundbreaking she was, because she was doing things that people never done before on radio. And she's like, you can't talk about your plastic surgery. She's like, a lot of celebrities get nip tucked, it's something that a lot of them do. And then they showed a scene where Total was at the station wanting to fight her because she had put it out there about their relationship with Puffy. And then all of a sudden, Kevin came up in there. He shut that shit down. Told him, get your asses back in that car and get the fuck out of here. So Kevin had her back, And then she also talked about how she gave up cocaine because even though Kevin hated it, he never forced her to quit. But because she was so in love and loved the great relationship that they had, she chose to give it up cold turkey. And they end up getting engaged. And then they show a scene where she's back at the dish, doing her job. And she's talking about gay rappers or whatever. And, I think low-key, y'all know who she was talking about. Because she had kind of threw, Puff Daddy in the mix. And also Eric B as well. And then all of a sudden, the head of the radio station pretty much suspended her. And she's like, well, why won't you just fire me? She says, girl, you under contract. We ain't gonna fire you. So what? We'll fire you and then you can go to another radio station? You're hot. So you'll go to another radio station and you'll blow up over there and we'll lose you? So it was like prison. But Wendy wasn't the one. She was like, oh, yeah. I read the fine print of my contract. It says I couldn't work with anybody else in New York. So I left New York, and she ended up going to Philadelphia, working for Power 99. And, she pretty much ended up getting to the top spot on Power 99. And also it showed that through her and Kevin's relationship, she suffered 3 miscarriages. She really couldn't carry a child to term past 5 months. And it was really sad to see that, wow, I did not know that she had that many miscarriages before she ended up having Kevin Jr. And she ends up going to the doctor after her 3rd miscarriage, and the 3rd miscarriage was a stillborn, and it was a baby girl. And it really tore up my heart when I saw that scene. But it tore up Kevin's heart too, because Kevin wanted to be a dad, and for three times they were unsuccessful. So she finds out that she had hyperactive thyroid, which is why she wears sneakers now. Because I used to love her shoe game. Like her heels were everything to me. I used to love them, but I now like her sneakers too. So I understand why she wears the sneakers. But her doctor tells her that she has a weak cervix. And because she stands, her body can't support the baby. And that's why she's been having miscarriages. So she decided the 4th time around. One thing they did, she decided that maybe God was punishing them because they weren't married. And they were trying to build a family. So her and Kevin got married. They went to the Justice of the Peace. And the 4th time, she decided to be on bed rest. She was still hustling, doing her work while laying down. She was still on her radio show. She still kept things going. And in 2000, she had her son Kevin Jr. And then we actually see that after the birth of Kevin Jr., they start to show that her and Kevin's relationship was very rocky due to his constant infidelities. He was giving his girls money and all of that. And she was pretty much like, her own private investigator and was following these females and kind of knew who these women were. And she says that, yeah, I wanted to beat the shit out of her, but my issue was with my man, not with that woman. And I said that shows the intelligence of Wendy, because a lot of women be quick to fight the other female for sleeping with her man, but like, that woman has no loyalty to you. That man is supposed to be loyal to you. So you deal with your man, not with the other woman. And then we start to see that her and Kevin's relationship starts to become rocky over time. You know, she gets tested for STDs, and she asks for an IUD because she doesn't want to have any more kids with Kevin, because clearly Kevin has showed that when it comes down to the morality part of their relationship, he's not loyal. Then she meets up with Vinnie Brown, and she pretty much says that, you know, he's now the head of WBLS, and they had a great relationship before the other radio manager came on, you know, the one that suspended her. Pretty much she says that, look, I want to come work for you, but I want my own show, and I want to do it my own way. But he was like, girl, you're crazy popular, we can't afford you. But they work out the deals, and the thing is, she was supposed to start on 9/11, you know, and we know how tragic 9/11 really was for this whole entire nation. So she ended up starting, but ended up starting later. And thing is, she ends up writing a book, and she even told Kevin, oh, in this book, I'm going to be honest about your affair. She wasn't having it. So she's supposed to have a book signing in Times Square, and we saw that she had fears of it because she's like, who the hell do I think I am? I'm just a radio personality. Who the hell's going to want to read anything I have to say? But Kevin encourages her that, look, it's going to be a mob there. You're Wendy Williams. Everybody loves you. You know, you have a big fan base. People are going to turn out. And she said, and sure enough, there was a mob waiting for her in Times Square to get their book signed, and it became a New York Times bestseller. And by 2003, her radio show was a success. They showed like when she was coming for Whitney Houston, and yeah, like, and her and Robin was outside that radio station ready to beat her ass. Oh God. But yeah, they talked about, and they really see how she's connecting with all of these celebrities, you know, the Wendy Williams experience. They also show that, you know, this is when her and Charlemagne the God comes into the picture. You know, he's pretty much her co-host. And in 2008, we see that they're at this event, you know, Wendy is trying to get her ticket, you know, and all of a sudden she knows that this girl who she's never seen before, and she's like, what the hell are you doing here? And she's like, oh, Kevin told me to be in this position. So she's starting to see that things are getting really messy. And then she talks to Charlemagne. She says, who's that girl Kevin talking to? She said, her name is Arissa. So it was a friend that Charlemagne knew, and you know, him and Arissa was messing around with each other for years. And pretty much we see that you know, things really start to get even more hectic for her and Kevin as far as his infidelities and everything. Later on, he becomes her manager, and she starts getting an offer to do her own show, you know, to be on television. And she at first gets mad at him, like, you're my manager now, because she's been getting calls at her station, and he's been getting calls about it, but she's like, you're not being proactive. Why aren't you on top of this? And he showed his authority. It was like, no, I want you to have your own show, and if it's not going to be your own show, no deal. Because yeah, they've been really after you did that segment with Monique, and what, they're going to try to make you a co-host or just be on a panel like The View? Hell no, it's your show or nothing. And then we see that she was trying to get celebrities to be a part of her, because she did end up getting her own show. She tried to get celebrities to be a part of it, and nobody wanted to touch her. But she was like, no, I'm going to let my audience be, you know, my guest. And I'm going to let my audience be a part of the show. And, you know, that's why she says on every show, you know, thank you, and to my co-host, my studio audience. How you doing? So we start seeing Hot Topics, you know, being the centerpiece of her show. You know, and that's the part that all of us tune in, because we ready for her to dish and tell us what the hell is going on in these celebrities and who's doing what and the scandal of it all. So we were here for that. And then we started to see that when her success began to rise, now that Kevin was her manager and also one of the producers of the show, he started to become more brazen and more open with his relationships as well as his disrespect. And then they even show us when he comes in the meeting, he just cups up with an attitude, throws this this box with a watch in it, and he's like, "It's for you." And she's like, "You're gonna break the table," and he's like, "Man, fuck the table." Kick the chair over. So, and it's also been reported that, you know, Kevin was also very controlling as well as could be very brutal to the staff and crew of the Wendy Williams show. And that a lot of them, you know, couldn't get close to Wendy because he was blocking her from really interacting with her cast and crew unless it was work related. So she couldn't even have personal relationships with the people that worked for her. So she pretty much, so they show her that she talks to this guy Ryan, who pretty much works for Kevin, and she gets the tea, like, is he really in LA? If I'm coming to find out, no, he's in Miami with this girl named Nikki. And you know, Sharina, who, the woman that literally broke the mold as far as their relationship, and that they got a house in Jersey. The damn house was only 10 miles down the street from them. So he literally had his mistress living 10 miles down the street. So Kevin was real bold and just blatantly disrespectful with this shit. So she goes to the house, she crazy glues the mailbox. She spray paints on the a message on the garage door. She goes inside and sees this nice ass car, all of these fancy clothes. She's like, this motherfucker is doing this shit with my money. And then this began, you know, her rise of addiction, where she was drinking very heavy, and you know, she was also popping pills and all of that. But really, her addiction wasn't those things. Her addiction was Kevin. And no matter how bad things got, she just couldn't let him go. And then, pretty much, you know, she wanted them to stay together as a family for the sake of her son, Kevin Jr. She wanted them to have like a united front for their son. But then that's usually where a lot of the pain happens, is that when you have a child and you stay together for the sake of the child, but then it actually tears you apart in the same process. So they also show the infamous, you know, episode where it was Halloween and she was dressed as Lady Liberty and she literally collapses on screen. And pretty much Kevin decides that, you know, she needs to get help. So he sends her to a rehab, you know, in Miami, I think in 2018. She literally talks to one of the people there to get a cell phone because she was cut off of everything. But then once she got that, but she pretty much says, "Isn't your mother a fan of mine?" So he pretty much sneaks in some tabloids and also sneaks in a phone. She pulls everything up. Kevin and Sharina are on covers of everything, and she finds out that she's pregnant. So she pretty much says that she calls Kevin and says that, get me the hell out of here. I will finish my treatment, but I'm finishing it in New York. So she ends up moving into a sober house in Queens. And we pretty much see her go through that. And then, she even talks about it on her show where she shared that she's living in a sober house. You know, that she's been dealing with some issues and all of that. And there was a scene where she had a meeting that she needed to attend to. The sober house people didn't want her to do that because the sober house was working with Kevin. So they were getting their cues from Kevin. And they were telling her that, no, we don't think you going to that meeting is a good idea. Oh, she got the fuck up out their car, escaped, went to the meeting and said that, yes, this is a meeting where I am, cutting ties with Kevin Hunter, him as a producer, as well as his, access to my funds. And I'm filing for a divorce. We're going to make this happen. Next thing you know, we see she's back in the sober house. Kevin and Wendy, have a, they go back and forth. She didn't even want to talk to him, but the sober house people said that, this is for your own good. You need to, talk to each other. Oh, she went the hell off. She pretty much like let his ass have it. And she asked, so how, like, is the baby healthy? Like, what was she, a boy or girl? What was it, a boy or girl? And he told her that she ended up having a girl. That he ended up having a girl with his mistress, Sharina. And we saw how that really hurt her heart. But then she says that I'm divorcing you. I'm taking my life back. Yeah. Yeah. She's like, if anything, all I need is my talent. And now I'm choosing me. Because I put everybody ahead of me. And I've allowed you to do all this to me. But yeah, you need to get you a lawyer because you ain't gonna be able to eat without me. So yeah, it's over. And then we see her, towards the end of the movie, she takes her life back. So I would say this was really good because it goes to show you that even in trials and tribulations, you can rise on top and you can pull yourself out of a dark place, but you have to want to. And we realized that, yeah, her biggest addiction was Kevin Hunter. And because of that, she allowed his infidelities and his disrespect and all that to continue for years. And she always put up a positive front to the fans that everything was great. But we now realize that everything is not. And now she was the hot topic, but she realized that she had to address it. She couldn't derail from that. So this was a really good movie. I enjoyed it. If I missed anything, get down in the comments and let me know your thoughts on it. I truly enjoyed this. They actually did a good job on this. So until next time, everybody, take care.